Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you are doing well today. And you probably already know what we're going to talk about because there's a title on every video, but we are going to talk about my equipment and my tools. So yeah, let's go. All right, guys, this is probably going to be a very interesting video for me because, at least in my planning, I don't think we're going to touch clay during this video. But I have had lots of questions over the last year and about what kind of equipment or tools that I use. And so I thought I'd make a video sharing that with you guys, starting with equipment. Next to my pottery wheels, the first thing I'm going to cover, probably the most important piece of equipment next to a pottery wheel, because without a wheel I couldn't make pots, of course, on the wheel. You can hand build, but I don't do that, is my Pug Mill. And my Pug Mill is the largest version of the Venco Pug Mill that you can buy. The one that I have is 25 years old. I bought it used from a local potter who was retiring and getting out of business, and they had two of these at one point and sold one before I ever got there to before I ever found out that they were going out of business and that they had them for sale. And but the gentleman that owned it, he went through the whole thing, cleaned it with like a toothbrush, and just replaced all the seals and all the parts that were going bad. And so it is a very nice piece of equipment. Honestly, I wouldn't want to make pottery of my own without a Pug Mill. Most of the shops I worked at when I was doing contract work for other potters, almost one of my stipulations was you have to have a Pug Mill, because there's no way I'm going to take clay out of a bag and just throw it without wedging it. And I'm not going to take my time to wedge 100 or 200 pounds of clay before I throw a full day's worth of work. And that's kind of what I used to do working for other people. I'd throw 100 or 200 pounds in a day. And there's just no way. I'm not going to wear out my body that much before I just start throwing pots. And to me, the ability to reclaim clay, the ability to blend stiffer and softer clays together, as well as just the fact that I am saving my arms and my wrists from all of that repetitive motion of wedging. I do not want to live without a Pug Mill. And if you can afford one of any kind, I would encourage you to get one. All right, so number two, I have actually I have 3 pottery wheels, but I have 2 that I use to actually throw pots. My wheel that I use for sitting down is a Brent model CXC. I believe that's the top of the line Brent that they make. I bought it used as well. I think every piece of equipment I have I bought used, but that's just the way it goes. When you're starting out, you usually don't have enough money just to buy everything brand new. But this Brent model CXC, I love it. It works great. The only problem I've had with it is just a little bit of squeaky wheel and belt issue. You guys have probably heard that on videos, but hopefully by now I've gotten some of that fixed. The other wheel I also bought used, is a Pacific GT 400. And with teal legs on it, the leg extension kit that I have on it, the legs came teal. And I did a poll on YouTube a little while back of whether I should keep them teal or paint them black. And before the poll went up, I was like, please, I hope everybody says teal, because I just don't feel like painting them. And most people said just keep them the way they are. So now I have like I said, a Pacifica GT 400 with leg system for it that is teal. So I get some color here in my workshop with that. The third wheel that I use in my spray booth. And I use it, I have the spray booth made so that only the wheel head sticks above into the spray booth, but it is a Brent Model A, and it's like a quarter horsepower Brent wheel with just a 12-inch wheel head. And I actually threw on it for quite a while before I got the Pacifica as my, that smaller Brent was my second wheel. But now I have been able to put that in my spray booth. And now instead of having to use a banding wheel where I have to spin it with my hand while I spray pots, I can just step on the foot pedal and it turns the pot, and I don't have to worry about that. You just have to be careful not to step on the pot the pedal by accident and throw a pot off the wheel. I've done that before and lost a pretty nice piece, so it happens. All right, the third category, what we're going to talk about in equipment is going to be, I have a North Star slab roller, and I have a North Star extruder for handles and other kinds of dies that I have. The slab roller I use for making ornaments. My wife uses for making jewelry, and it's just the smaller version of the North Star slab roller. Another really essential part to what I do, because probably over the last 5 years that I've been making my own line of pottery, I've sold as many ornaments as I have anything else. And some shows, just selling ornaments quadrupled my booth fee in that one single show. And I can't tell you how many times it's just been a blessing to have those that I've made, and to be able to also make those for different charities. I've been able to make ornaments for our local hospice. This will be the third year in a row I get to make those. They sell those as a fundraiser, as well as this year I'm supposed to be making them for one other charity. So it's just been a blessing to me to be able to sell them, but also be able to make those for charities as well, for them to use as fundraisers. As far as the extruder goes, I've made handles different ways. I've made them where I pull them myself, where I extrude them, and now the way I'm doing handles, most of them are extruded. And I've got a pretty neat system that I have now. You guys may know of a guy named Justin's Makery. He has a YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description. If you follow John the Potter, he's the one that poured that that large metal JTP cast that he has in his studio. But Justin and I have been talking, and we're working on a few custom tools. And he made me a custom die kit to go in my North Star extruder. So this is a die system where you can put different dies inside this. And we've tested a few iterations of this and found that at least with my extruder, it has so much pressure that we were having a problem with it breaking some of these plates. So now we're doubling these up, and we'll go with two different sizes. I'm excited. This one I haven't even used yet. This one just came in the mail today. But he sent me a whole bunch of different plates, the different sizes and designs that I like. This is something that Justin is interested in, and we're kind of hashing out the details, because if these work and people have other kinds of extruders, he's very interested in making these and being able to make custom dies for you if that's something you're interested in. So like I said, a link to his channel will be in the description. He's also working on custom tools for me, but we'll cover that when we get to the tool section. So like I said, section 3 was my North Star slab roller and extruder. Okay, category number 4 as far as equipment goes, and this will be the last one, is my EnviroKlenz air purifier system. And you've probably seen this on other YouTube channels like mine as far as potters go, and I think there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is because it works. I'll include a couple links in the description here of a couple videos that they sent me that showed other YouTubers put this thing through the ringer. They weren't necessarily potters, but they were just testing air purification systems. And this thing performs like mad. And if you check those out, you'll be impressed as I was, I believe. The second reason I think you've probably seen it in other channels as well as you have mine is because they reached out to me and said, hey, we see that you make pottery. This is an area that we shine as far as our system goes. And if we give you this unit, would you be willing to give us your honest feedback, try it out, give us your honest feedback, and then also include it in one of your videos? And I said, yes, I'd be interested in that. And so there'll also be a link in the description where they created a link that allows you guys, if you're interested in buying one of these, where they've bundled a couple things together where you can save some money. If you go ahead and buy the unit and then buy a couple extra filters, I believe it is, you get to save some money versus buying them separately. And so that is a benefit in that link that's in the description. But I will tell you that I was very impressed even opening this thing up to see that the EnviroKlenz air cartridge that comes in that, and that has a patented technology as far as some kind of minerals, where it not only removes those odors and VOCs, but it actually uses a mineral compound where it breaks down those VOCs, those volatile organic compounds, and the odors. It actually breaks those down chemically so that they don't just stay in the filter, but they get broken down and neutralized. Also, the HEPA filter in this thing, which is the one that's got all the fiber in it, that thing is massive. And apparently it works to the point that it removes particles as small as like 0.3 microns. and I'm not a scientist. I don't know how small 0.3 microns is, but I bet it's really small. So anyway, just to let you know, I'm being upfront and honest with you guys that they did give me this unit, and I'm testing it out, and I love it. My wife loves it. She's had it in the house for the last week. Because the pollen is falling here in North Carolina, and she's like, I want this thing in the house. First, she brought it in because I think somebody burnt some popcorn, and she's like, can we get rid of this odor? So I'm like, hey, I got something to try out. So we took it inside. It worked for that. Then all the pollen started falling, and she's like, we're keeping this thing in the house till this pollen goes away. And I'm like, well, that's fine. We have it. And so she loves it. I might have to get a second one to keep out here in my studio, by the way. But anyway, so there you go. Those are my equipment that I use, at least the big brand equipment that I use that works here in my studio. And next we will cover tools. All right, as far as tools, there are some very specific tools that I like to use, but I'm also very simple when it comes to tools. I don't use a lot of tools, as you guys have probably seen on this channel. There's only a couple tools that I like to use while I'm throwing a piece of pottery, and I keep going back to those same ones, and it's probably just I'm a creature of habit, but there are some that I think just work better than others, and so these are my tools. All right, I'm going to start with a sponge. You can buy pre-made sponges from pottery supply stores. I just don't buy those because I like a bigger sponge. Also, I like to make sure I find a sponge that can really soak up water, and some sponges just aren't good at that. I don't know why. I guess just depends what they're made out of. But to be honest with you, this is a masonry sponge that you can get at your hardware store. This one is by Pro Plus. I can't read the other name up there, but this sponge right here, I never use it whole like this, but I will cut it in half, and I will get a half sponge that I use to clean off my bats and clean up other surfaces. And then I take the other half and I usually cut it in half again, and I get my throwing sponge, which ends up looking like this. And so I get 2 throwing sponges and a cleanup sponge out of one large sponge like that. And they last a really long time. They soak up water really well, at least once you get them broken in. When they're like this, no new sponge soaks up water very well. But these do not take very long at all to get to where they're in good working order as far as soaking up water. But I love these sponges, and until I find a better one, this is what I'm sticking with. Outside of that, also at the hardware store, I buy a plastic scraper. As far as a putty knife, I believe is what most people would call them. I do not recommend buying metal putty knives or scrapers. Especially on masonite bats that I use. If you use a metal scraper or a metal putty knife, you have a greater chance of digging into that bat when you go to scrape it. With a plastic one, the clay may not come off quite as easy. You might have to apply a little bit more pressure, but you will never dig into the masonite bat with one of these like you would with a metal scraper. And so I always recommend, anybody who asks, I recommend buying plastic scrapers, and these are very cheap. I mean, you can probably buy like 3 of them for a couple dollars, and they come in usually in a little bundle, and you get like a small one, a medium one, and a really large one. And but these are a must, I think, just about any pottery shop. Also, I guess from a hardware store, but this is a 20-penny nail that I sign pots with. You can sign pots with anything, but you guys have probably seen before, I sign pots with a nail. But I also use that end of the nail a lot of times to do decorations on some of my buttons, so it's a multi-use tool. As far as specific, okay, there's another hardware item. I use a screwdriver to get my bats off the wheel with. I just found it easier just to go up next to where the bat pin is and just stick it under and twist, and that pops that bat up off. So I use a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver for that. As far as specific pottery tools, all right, these are actually made for pottery. I use one of these knives that I use to trim the bottom of the pots after they come off the bat. You guys have probably seen those before. I don't know. Oh, this is a Kemper tool, so that is made by Kemper. These, I believe these are Kemper as well. This is a wooden rib. I've been using this shape rib for a very long time, and I love them. The only thing that I have happen every once in a while is if I get them, and because they're made out of wood, sometimes they can warp and bend, or they may come that way, or if part of the wood gets rough here or starts to peel because there are grains of wood in there, then there are times I've had that and I didn't like it, but you can always sand them and make them smooth. But Justin, as I mentioned earlier, with the dies for my extruder, we're working on making some custom tools. This one is a prototype that he 3D printed for me, and we're going to work on some other designs of this. I think, oh yeah, I got a new package from Justin today, so I got this one as well from Justin. So it's basically a scaled up version of that, because when I got this one, I wanted the bigger hole so I could maybe try to hold it like this instead of pinching. And I said, well, that doesn't work. So this one, I got to try this one out now. Maybe I can hold it like that and pinch and be able to hold it in a different way. Excited about trying that one out. But still the same shape as the other tool, because I like the point there for digging at the bottom. I like this 90-degree angle there for cutting out. But then every once in a while I like to flip this over and use it this way to curve the tops of my pots. You guys have seen me use this. This is a mud tools, but any of these flexible ribs would work. I use this a lot of times on a pot. I can actually use it like this and bend it, or I can use it like this. And these just work really well to smooth out a pot. Or if you've seen me when I throw platters and I throw them in reverse, I will use this on the inside as I shape the inside of the bowl and support it on the outside with my left hand. And for that, these are amazing. Number one, because of the curve, and number two, because they make it so smooth. And I mainly started doing that because my peacock platter design really helps if the inside of that bowl is really smooth. It helps that glaze flow the way I need it to get that really special look of the peacock platter bowls. So I use these soft rubber ribs like this as well, and they work really great. Of course, no pottery shop really can get by without a needle tool. Personally, I love these metal ones over the wood ones. The wooden handled ones usually have a little bit smaller needle on the top of them, but I found that for me, these last a little bit longer, and I just like them. So, and they work good. Sometimes I use that in to do designs as well, but the needle tool is definitely a must. A wire, of course, I use a wire. Everybody uses a wire. And then you guys have seen me, I use paintbrushes. I use paintbrushes when I clean off around handles. I think it just works way better than using a sponge, because it helps keep from bringing some of that grit to the surface that a sponge a lot of times does. So when I'm putting on handles, a lot of times I clean off the excess slip with a paintbrush, and also you can get some water on it and you can kind of get water down in those cracks and just help it smooth out. And so a paintbrush works really well for that. So other than that, I believe that is my tools. Like I said, I'm very simple. There are a few other things that I use. Of course, I use rulers and all those kinds of things, but as far as specific tools, these are the ones that I use, and honestly, I couldn't live without. I couldn't make pots. I mean, I could make pots without them, but I'm so used to these tools that I love having them, and I love using them. But anyway, thank you guys, as always, for being here for the videos. I know there's a lot of links in the description of this video, so I apologize about that, but go check out Justin's Makery. Check out EnviroKlenz and the videos that I talked about that. And I will put a link at the very bottom of the description for my Patreon, where you can check out that unlisted video and the link to my Patreon. And so, like I said, apologize about all the links, but this was just a link-heavy description of this video. So, but I really appreciate you guys, as always, and we will see you in the next video. All right, talk to you later. Bye.